I never thought I'd be that person, the one who checks their partner's phone. But there I was at 2 a.m., staring at a text notification that wasn't meant for me. I'm Alex, 29, and I've been with my girlfriend Emma for about 4 years now. She's amazing, smart, funny, always full of energy. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always thought we were solid. At least, I wanted to think that. I live a pretty normal life. I work a decent office job, hang out with friends on the weekends. But lately things had started to change. It wasn't one big thing, more like a bunch of small things that started piling up. She was working late all the time, which wasn't unusual since she'd just gotten a promotion. But she stopped texting me when she was out. Then her phone was always face down or on silent when we were together. She'd brush off my questions saying she was stressed or busy. And I believed her because I wanted to. I told myself I was just being insecure. The first real red flag happened about a month ago. We were at dinner and her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled, and quickly swiped it away. I made some stupid joke like, "What's got you grinning over there?" She just laughed and said, "Oh, it's nothing. Work stuff." But the way she said it didn't sit right. Still, I didn't push. I didn't want to be that guy. Fast forward to last weekend, we were having one of our lazy nights in. She'd picked out a movie I didn't really care about, so I was half watching while scrolling on my phone. About halfway through, she fell asleep on the couch, snuggled up against me. I remember sitting there, thinking about how peaceful she looked, how lucky I was. And then her phone lit up. I wasn't trying to snoop, I swear. But when a message notification pops up right in front of you, it's hard not to glance. The name Tom was at the top, followed by the words, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Who the hell was Tom? I stared at that screen for what felt like forever. My brain was racing, trying to come up with any possible explanation that didn't involve her cheating on me. Maybe it was a joke? Maybe it was innocent? But the winky face? I mean, come on. I told myself not to overreact, but my hands were shaking. Before I knew it, I'd picked up her phone and unlocked it. I know her passcode, it's the same one she's always had. And, yeah, I know I crossed the line, but at that moment I didn't care. I needed answers. The texts were all there. Flirty messages, inside jokes I didn't understand, and pictures, not explicit, but enough to make my stomach churn. They'd been talking for weeks. He'd sent her a picture of his dinner with the caption, "Wish you were here." She'd replied, "Soon." It wasn't just flirting, it was clear they'd been meeting up. One message stuck out to me. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for next time." I felt like I was going to throw up. I put the phone down and just sat there. She was still asleep, totally oblivious to the fact that my world had just imploded. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to wake her up and confront her right then and there. Another part of me wanted to walk out the door and never look back. Instead, I just sat there staring at her, wondering how the hell we got here. Eventually, she stirred awake. She looked up at me, smiling sleepily, and said, "What time is it?" I didn't answer, I just held up her phone. Her face went pale. "Alex," she started, but I cut her off. "Who's Tom?" She froze, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't decide what to say. He's just a friend from work," she finally managed. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so ridiculous. "A friend. Friends don't text each other like this," I said, scrolling through her messages for emphasis. She started crying, and I didn't know if it was because she felt guilty or because she'd been caught. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she sobbed. "It's not what you think." "Not what I think," I snapped. "You've been sneaking around with this guy for weeks, maybe months, and I'm supposed to believe it's nothing." She kept saying she was sorry, but like that she'd been feeling distant and stressed, that it was a mistake. But all I could hear was the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I couldn't even look at her. I grabbed my keys and walked out. She called after me, but I didn't stop. I needed air. I needed space. I drove around for hours that night, replaying everything in my head. Every little moment over the past few months that hadn't felt right suddenly made sense. All the late nights, the secretive texts, the excuses. It was all so obvious in hindsight. How had I been so blind? Since then, I've been staying at a friend's place. She's been calling and texting nonstop, begging me to come home, saying she wants to work things out. But I don't know if I can. I don't even know if I want to. Part of me keeps thinking about the good times, about how happy we were before all this. But another part of me can't stop picturing those texts, wondering how many other lies she's told. How do you come back from something like this? Can you ever really trust someone again after they've betrayed you like that? Right now, I'm stuck in this weird limbo. I haven't told anyone else. Not my family, not my coworkers. I feel embarrassed, like admitting what happened would somehow make it more real. My friend keeps telling me I deserve better, that I should walk away. But it's not that simple. 4 years is a long time to just throw away. So here I am, pouring my heart out to strangers on the internet because I don't know what else to do. Have any of you been through something like this? Did you make it work, or did you walk away? Because right now, I feel like I'm drowning and I don't know which way is up. Update. Hey everyone, it's Alex again. First off, I just want to say thank you for all the support and advice on my last post. I wasn't expecting so many people to care about my messy little life, but reading your comments actually helped me feel less alone. A lot has happened since then, and I wanted to give you an update. So, after I left Emma's that night, I stayed at my friend Jake's place. Jake's been my best friend since college, and if there's one thing I can count on him for, it's brutal honesty. I told him everything about the texts, the confrontation, how I didn't know what to do. He listened, and when I was done, he just looked at me and said, "Dude, you already know the answer. You're just scared to admit it." And he was right. I think deep down, I already knew I couldn't go back. But breaking up after 4 years? It felt like ripping off a limb. Emma kept texting me, begging me to come home so we could talk it out. She promised she'd block Tom, delete his number, do whatever it took to make things right. At one point, she even showed up at Jake's apartment unannounced. I wasn't ready to face her, so Jake told her I wasn't there. It killed me to hide, but I just couldn't handle another emotional showdown. A few days later, I finally agreed to meet her, not at our apartment, but at a coffee shop. I needed it to be somewhere neutral, somewhere I could leave if things got too intense. She showed up looking like she hadn't slept in days. The first thing she said was, "I'm so sorry, Alex. I don't know what I was thinking." We talked for hours. She admitted that things with Tom had started as a harmless flirtation. She said she felt lonely and unappreciated because of how distant I'd been lately. That part hit me hard. I didn't realize she'd been feeling that way, but at the same time, it didn't excuse what she did. I told her that. She cried a lot. She begged me to give her another chance, to go to couples therapy, to let her prove she could be better. I wanted to believe her so badly, but every time I thought about taking her back, I'd see that text again. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for next time." How do you come back from that? In the end, I told her I needed more time to think. She didn't like that answer, but she agreed to give me space. The next week was a roller coaster. Some days I felt like I could forgive her. I'd think about all the good times we had, how happy we used to be, and I'd wonder if it was worth throwing all of that away. Other days, I felt nothing but anger and betrayal. I started obsessing over the details. How many times had they met up? Did she ever think about me while she was with him? Was it really over between them? Then something happened that made the decision for me. One of Emma's coworkers, Megan, reached out to me. We'd met a few times at work events, and I guess she'd heard about the breakup through the grapevine. Megan told me she didn't want to get involved, but she thought I deserved to know the truth. Apparently, Emma and Tom had been a thing for months. Megan had seen them sneaking off during lunch breaks and even caught them together at a bar after work once. Hearing it from someone else made it all feel so much worse. It wasn't just a mistake like Emma had said, it was a full-on relationship behind my back. That was the nail in the coffin. I called Emma that night and told her it was over. For good. She cried and begged, but I stood my ground. I told her I deserved someone who wouldn't lie to me, who wouldn't cheat on me no matter how distant things got. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but when I hung up, I felt this weird sense of relief. Like I could finally breathe again. It's been a few weeks now. I've moved most of my stuff out of the apartment and started looking for a new place. Jake's been letting me crash with him in the meantime, which has been a lifesaver. Some days are better than others. I still miss her sometimes, or at least I miss the version of her I thought I knew. But I know I made the right decision. The biggest lesson I've learned through all of this is to trust my gut. Those little red flags I ignored, they were there for a reason. If something feels off, it probably is. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Single for the first time in years, trying to figure out who I am without Emma. It's scary, but it's also kind of exciting. I'm taking things one day at a time, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm going to be okay. Thanks again for all the support. It really means a lot. And if any of you are going through something similar, just know you're not alone. You deserve someone who loves and respects you, even on the hard days. Don't settle for less. Update number 2. Hi everyone, it's Alex again. So, I thought the last update was going to be the end of this whole ordeal, but life had other plans. A lot has happened since then, some good, some messy, and I think I can finally close this chapter for good. After I broke things off with Emma, I tried to focus on rebuilding my life. I found a new apartment, a small one-bedroom place that's nothing fancy, but it's mine. Moving in was both exciting and depressing. As I unpacked, I kept finding little reminders of her, a photo of us from our trip to the mountains, a mug she bought me for my birthday. Each one felt like a gut punch, but I forced myself to put them in a box and shove it into the back of the closet. Out of sight, out of mind, right? Jake's been a rock through all of this. He dragged me out to bars when I wanted to wallow, made sure I ate when I couldn't be bothered, and even signed us up for a 5K because, in his words, running cures heartbreak. Spoiler, it doesn't. But it did give me something to focus on, so I guess that's something. Emma kept trying to reach out. For weeks, I'd get these long texts from her. Apologies, explanations, promises that she'd change. She even sent a letter, handwritten like we were in some 19th century drama. I'll admit, part of me wanted to respond. Not to get back together, but just to get closure, to ask her why she did it. But every time I thought about replying, I'd remember what her coworker Megan told me, that it wasn't just one mistake, it was months of lies. That was all the closure I needed. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. Tom reached out to me. I got a message from him on Instagram. At first I thought it was some kind of sick joke, but it was definitely him. He said he wanted to clear the air and ask if we could talk. My gut reaction was to block him immediately. But curiosity got the better of me. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop. Neutral territory, just like I'd done with Emma. When I walked in, I was bracing for some smug, arrogant jerk. But to my surprise, he seemed nervous. He started off by apologizing, which caught me off guard. He said he didn't know Emma was in a serious relationship when they first started talking. Apparently, she told him we were on a break and that things between us were basically over. By the time he found out the truth, he was already hooked. I didn't know what to say. On one hand, I hated this guy for being part of what destroyed my relationship. On the other hand, he looked genuinely remorseful. He admitted he'd been blindsided when Emma ended things with him after I found out. She blocked me the same day you confronted her, he said. I guess I was just a backup plan. Hearing that was weirdly validating. It didn't erase the hurt, but it confirmed what I'd been starting to suspect. This wasn't about me, or even about Tom. This was about Emma, and whatever was missing in her life that made her chase something else. After that, I decided to really cut ties. I blocked Emma on everything, her number, social media, even email. It felt harsh, but I knew it was the only way I could move forward. I also deleted the pictures and mementos I'd shoved in the closet. No more reminders, no more looking back. That was a couple of months ago. Since then, I've been focusing on myself. I started going to therapy, which has been a game changer. At first, it felt weird to sit in a room and spill my guts to a stranger, but it's helped me unpack a lot. Not just about Emma, but about my own patterns and insecurities. I realized I'd spent so much of our relationship trying to keep the peace to avoid conflict that I ignored my own needs. I don't want to make that mistake again. I've also reconnected with old friends, people I drifted away from during my relationship. One of them, Lisa, has been especially great. We've been hanging out a lot lately, and while I'm not ready to jump into anything new, it feels good to be around someone who genuinely cares about me. No strings attached. As for Emma, I haven't heard from her since I blocked her, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't wish her ill. I hope she figures out whatever's going on in her life, but I know now that we weren't meant to be. What happened between us hurt like hell, but it also forced me to take a hard look at myself and what I want in a relationship. And that's a gift in a weird way. So, yeah, I think this is the real end of the story. It's not the ending I wanted when I first shared it with you, but it's the one I needed. If you're going through something similar, just know it gets better. It's not easy and it's definitely not quick, but you'll come out the other side stronger than you think. Thanks again for all the support. It's been a wild ride, but I'm finally ready to move forward. Here's to new beginnings.